Hey guys, welcome back. Robocraft Early Access coverage. This is episode 25. I'm Enigmius, and today it's the Pretty Hate Machine in all her incomplete glory, if you could call it that. This is actually the very first match that I went into with this bot after we finished it off in the last episode. And by finished it off, obviously, I mean got it complete to the point it is now, which is not complete. But I felt was good enough to start running matches and earning some tier 10 tech points and contribute, hopefully, to whatever my team was doing. And the first thing I do is overextend, which is not necessarily the best. There's a thing that I've discovered, and maybe it's a confirmation bias, maybe it's the truth, is that whenever I start a match and I'm, driving to where, or flying or whatever, to where I need to set up, and I notice friendly tanks, friendly bots they're just shooting at random things and they're shooting at each other, we usually lose. There's just something about that. Just shooting at stuff at the beginning of a match instead of thinking where they're going and what they're doing and all that other stuff. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but you can see we've taken some damage. We're to the point now where we just randomly fly up in the air for no reason. And I'm feeling kind of a little bit concerned at this point, because if this is going to be the trend with this bot, that I just kind of lose half of it in the first couple minutes of a match, and then fly around and do my best. See, Plasma shouldn't be shooting at air targets as a mainstay. I don't mind it from time to time if I'm in a situation like this and that's all I have to shoot at, because a maybe hit is better than not shooting anything at all. But you see these Plasma who try to take on this air-to-air role, and anti-air role, and Plasma's not very good for that. It's kind of disconcerting when you see that. So you can see the enemy just rolled right over us. There was not much to be said about that. It was just a bad loss, and as soon as I realized how badly we lost, I didn't feel so bad about how the bot held up. But I did want to see the bot do a little bit better. So the first thing that I had to do was not overextend, because I don't think my overextension was the really, really bad kind, where you put yourself in a really bad situation, but I shouldn't have gone past the SMGs in a bot like this. This bot isn't meant to be a frontline fighter right now. It's better as kind of support fire, so that's what I decided to do here, is just try that out. Get a little more practice with the Plasma, trying to fire accurately, that's kind of a thing, and also not overextending, but at the same time not necessarily spending the entire match shooting at nothing, or trying to be ground to air combat it doesn't work. Stop it, Plasma guys who just sit there and shoot at flyers all match. It's not your job. Now, I have made and driven Plasma vehicles before. This isn't my first Plasma vehicle, but there's definitely a lot of benefit from practice with kind of managing where your shots are going. And in this case, you'll notice that for a little while here, I'm firing a lot of shots into an area where I know there are enemies, even though I can't necessarily directly see them, and not hitting. They're not so far out of range that the shots are just dissipating like they do now, but I'm not hitting because I'm just not that good with the Plasma just yet. So I kind of took a look around at what was going on, and I was satisfied that I could advance with the bots that were ahead of me and not overextend. So that's what I did. I wasn't hitting enough guys over in the previous spot, so now we're going to move up. You see our one guy just took a bunch of rail shots to the face. And again, I'm not necessarily trying to push forward and be an offensive juggernaut. I'm trying to put myself in a position where I can fire at the guys that are firing at our guys and see how it goes. So that's really all I can do right now. I'm finding in tier 10 that the Plasma is finally starting to come back down to a level where it's a little bit more reasonable. And I say that as someone who wishes that I could one-shot guys like they do in the lower tiers. But a lot of that is over-tiering. A lot of it is bots that just aren't up to the task. In tier 10, people have been here for a while and they've had a chance to fill out their bots so that they aren't such kind of like paper. So Plasma, sometimes you get lucky, you get that nice splash, or you get that one lucky shot, and it's like anything else, it just carves a big chunk off the enemy bot. Most of the time, it's like this. You're just lobbing blast after blast at the enemy, trying not to put myself in a position where I'm going to take a bunch of fire, because you can see I've still got tier 8 armor blocks shrouding my hover blades. I think at this point I have unlocked the tier 10 blocks, and I've actually got a couple of little hooks on the front that I was messing around with, but realistically speaking, the bot is exactly the same as it was when we first unleashed her. You see, I've got a couple of thrusters that I added after the last episode, just to try and give us a little bit of better turning. They don't work so well on the back. We eventually moved them up to the front of the bot, where they do a much better job. This bot likes to drift all over the damn place, which is a little bit fun sometimes, and other times, especially when you're trying to get through narrow corridors, maybe not so good. So some guy just kind of blopped me with plasma, and I saw the plasma go by, and I decided that I was just going to pursue these guys. They're moving to cover, and I didn't realize this is like a mobile medic circle jerk. These guys are just kind of getting blasted all over the place, and then they retreat a bit, and then they get blasted, and then they retreat, and then we find out it's because they've got a medic back there that just keeps healing them the whole time. So it's a little bit effective, except for the fact that they haven't really done any damage to us whatsoever. They just keep recovering the damage that we're doing to them. It's going to cost them, is what it's going to do, and there's not much to be said about that. I'm not trying to make people feel bad when I comment on the medic circle jerks. I'm just trying to illustrate that it's not very effective, and that it's not even so much the medic's fault, because it's not the medics that are clustering around the medics. It's all everyone else. I'm 70% hull, I need healing, and they abandon their offensive position to go get healed. It's like, come on, man, find a pair and then use them. So now I'm close to the enemy circle. I figure I might as well approach. At the very least, it's that sending the enemy into a generic state of disarray. They don't necessarily know what to do. They just know that something else is going on that they hadn't necessarily planned on, and they need to respond. So there's this one guy just up here. He's the one guy in the match who's less accurate with the plasma cannons than I am, which is quite fortunate for me. I'm not so much worried about capping at this point as keeping pressure on. So I think there's only 2 enemy guys. If I'm looking at the screen properly here, it's a little bit scrunched, but there's not a lot of guys left, and I don't want to take the chance that the last remaining enemy is actually a little ejection seat in a valley somewhere where no one is going to find them. So that's the only reason really I'm, staying on the circle as I'm fighting that guy. Realistically speaking, I have to say, while we're looking at it, that rail bot, that vertical thing, clever as hell. I give full props to that guy. There's got to be some helium in there keeping that thing upright when he jumps, because you'll see in a moment after he's done wasting all of his ammunition, it stays perfectly upright. That's kind of neat. Anyways, we win. Hooray. I don't even remember what I was talking about before I got fixated on that the railgun guy. Now, these 2 matches, there's 2 of them, and they're not super long. They're literally back to back. Like, I did this match that we're just starting right now, and then right after that, we did the next match that I'm going to show you. And it was one of those things where you're just kind of like, that worked for the enemy. If it had been us that was winning, we wouldn't have complained. But it's also a little bit disappointing to see, and we don't want to see it in a trend. I'm talking about the early match rush to cap. Now, I've talked about this before, and there's always people who interpret what I'm saying as me advocating that you just rush to cap. I can't be more clear. The idea for me of getting onto the enemy circle is, one, to make sure that you don't lose because there's an enemy in an ejection seat or some crippled bot somewhere that you don't find. You don't want to lose because of that, and if you wait until the last second, you're not going to have time to cap to find out. So that's why. The other reason to get on this circle is because it forces the enemy to do something that they hadn't expected they were going to have to do, and that's either get on our circle and start capturing, or get back to their circle and disrupt our capture. You're forcing them into a position where they have to change what they're doing, and the resulting disarray can often win the match for you. And that's the only reasons why I think of getting on that circle. In this case, both sides push to this. You can see both teams are capturing right now. The enemy team is actually a ways ahead of us. And me, I'm just blissfully, practicing with I'm literally in my mind as I'm doing this right now, I'm practicing my accuracy with the plasma and splashing to get damage on targets that I can't see. And then I realize, holy crap, both teams are capturing the circles. We need to do something about this. This is not good. So I'm looking up here and I see these guys on the enemy circle, and I think, okay, well, I don't see really too many enemies shooting at them, so I'll push up and see if I can't, because I'm a hover vehicle, see if I can't get to the other circle and interrupt, and then I find all these guys. And at this point, we've got another guy coming up the flank, we've got guys in the middle. If I push up the other side, really good chance that the enemy in the middle is going to see me, and then I'm fully overextended and cut off, and there's not much chance of surviving. So we're kind of screwed. And like I say, you can't blame the enemy for doing it, because we're doing it too. It's just the enemy is doing it better. They're capturing and they're disrupting our captures, so that even if we hadn't started off at a disadvantage, they started capturing first, but even if they hadn't, we would have lost because they did a much better job of controlling our capture. So now I'm just trying to damage guys and, you know, score points for RP, because it's pretty much a done deal. There's nothing I can do about it. There's too many enemies, and this is what happens when both teams rush to cap first, is that they end up playing a defensive game around the circles. It's not very fun. Defensive games are never really very fun. It's always better when you're on the offense, when you're probing, when you're pushing, when you're trying to get through various different places. When you're sitting there waiting for the enemy to come to you, it's just kind of They could come, they could not. We could be here for a long time with nothing going on, or they could all come now. It doesn't matter. It's just a thing. So then again, like I was saying, the very next match, immediately after that last one ended, I queued, I got in this one. And it's going to be the exact same thing. You can see we've got 3 guys ahead of me pushing up, and I'm happily following along behind them. This is a good position for me to be in with this bot for right now, while we're not that well armored, is to kind of be in close where we can be an asset without being so close to the front that we're getting chewed up very, very easily. The only thing that actually surprised me is this bot is quite tough. It's not as wimpy as I'm making it sound, but it's one of those situations where if I've got 3 or 4 bots shooting at me all at once, it doesn't hold up as well as I would like it to. So now you can see we've got those guys that were in front of me, they just keep going, which is fine. They're pushing through. They haven't encountered the enemy yet, so they're just going to keep pushing through. And our guys, look at how many of them just go right past the circle. And again, I can't say I blame them, because who wants at this point of the match to just say, okay, yeah, well, the enemy's over there, we can see them, but let's just sit on the circle anyways. The trouble is, the enemy didn't see it that way. What the hell's going on? Tier 10, you bastards. It's a lot of people, I think, wanting to get the daily done, and the best way to do that, realistically speaking, is to rush the cap. Because one or two things is going to happen, is you're going to win or you're going to lose. One way or the other, it's going to be fast. And if you know that you're on during the time of the day when your side of the server tends to lose an awful lot, you'd rather get the matches over quickly just to get the win than to drag them out and not get the win for a really long time. So I get it, I understand it. At this point, I'm kind of rushing back. I still don't want to go up the middle. I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm overly exposed. But unfortunately, I'm just not able to get back fast enough to do anything about disrupting what's going on. You can see I'm aiming for the blue column of light. No dice. So that brings us to our last match for the episode. This one was a bit of a slugfest. That's why I'm including it, because these are the best matches to me. These are the ones where you get in and you fight hard and you win or you lose, but you had a lot of fun in the process. The opposite, of course, being the just over a minute and a half matches where you barely got to do anything before the match was over. So, same as before, moving up cautiously. I don't have anybody directly in front of me this time, which is why I'm not going super fast. I've actually taken the thrusters off the back. You can see them now, they're on the front. It really helps with the drifting in the corners. See, like I said, the drifting in the corners is kind of fun. I like it, but it's just not practical, especially in a bot where you do have a bit of a movement penalty. So we're just kind of sitting in one spot, lobbing at red names, and it's not because I'm trying to be lazy, it's because I want to let the match evolve a little bit, see where my guys go, and then I can move up to support them. They're kind of taking their time. You can see this guy, he's driving forward, and then he's driving back, and then he's around, and he's a plasma vehicle as well. I don't want to speculate as to which one of us is the more robust vehicle, but if he wants to overextend, I'm not going to try and block him. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And I'm having reasonable success here getting damage onto the targets down there in the valley. The only thing is, I'm just not seeing our guys. There we got I think we've got a rail walker up on the far ridge, and we've got a flyer. And we've got these two plasma guys shooting down. Normally by now you would have at least expected to see a few more blue nameplates kind of coming in from the left side of the screen. But again, you can fixate on where the team is and what they should be doing. It's one of the things that I have to be careful, because we watch these videos and the whole purpose of doing them is to take a look at what's happening and what could be done better and all those other things. But it's not good to fixate on all the things that your team is doing wrong, because then you lose the opportunity to learn from what you're doing wrong. And in this case, I'm not sure if I should have been pushing farther or not. You can see now we've got a few names showing up. Our guys are pushing around on the left-hand side. We've still got that one plasma, that little guy. He's all the way up on the right-hand side. And now to me, as soon as I see those names, it's like, okay, the enemy is going to be occupied with those guys. I can afford to push forward and get some fire down. Once this vehicle is done, once it's fully armored the way I want it to, this will be the vanguard. This will be the one that leads the pack. But for now, I'm just kind of making sure that I don't put myself in a position where I'm just the first guy to die, because it's not helpful to the team. And in this case, given the nature of the weapon that I have, I can actually be helpful by logging at guys that are far away and damage and softening them up, knocking off a few weapons, things like that, while we're waiting for the rest of the team to show up and try and do something. Things are looking positive at this point in terms of what we're doing as a team. We've got the guys down the left that are kind of engaged, kind of keeping an eye on them as best I can. If it looks like things are going really badly for them, I can always shift over and try and lend some support. But then up ahead here, we've got these guys that I've just been kind of softening them up for a while. A little bit of tunnel vision, I have to be honest. A little bit of tunnel vision on my part. This guy here, he does flips when he shoots. Apparently, that's part of the design. And now we've kind of cleared this side here, and we're in a position where we can move up and flank these guys. These enemy guys are in a lot of trouble right now because they're going to be getting it from all sides. And that's kind of the worst position to be in. It's pretty much game over at this point for them. You can see the one guy, he's kind of breaking away, getting some distance, but the remainder of them, they're all just up in there and not really having much luck with anything. And I'm kind of, whatever cluster looks the most attractive is what I'm shooting at, because it gives me better chances of actually hitting something from this range. This guy, I don't think he's a flyer, but he's kind of like me, I suspect. You get that certain amount of damage in a hover vehicle with thrusters on it, you just start flying for no reason. I think that's what happened. As long as he's got no guns, I don't care. He can fly all he wants. Pushing up. It's been a lot of shooting at enemy vehicles this whole match. Just constantly shooting. Trying to get some points, trying to get some kills, doing whatever we possibly can. You can see what I'm talking now about a fire support vehicle, is I have never really been on the Vanguard. I don't think I've taken a single hit this entire match. I don't think my kill count is really all that impressive, but we've put down quite a bit of damage, we've softened up a lot of enemies, and now there we go, there's our first hit of the match. So we've got this guy over here. I don't mind a little one-on-one kind of a scenario. And then push up into the area around the cap, just in case. Obviously, we just had that cluster of enemies back there with all of our friendly guys, but after destroying them, there are still enemies. So what do we find back here? The ones that were hiding. This guy, this bomber who crash-landed at some point, I would assume early in the match, and he's been kind of hanging out, I think, hoping that people will just leave him alone. Not a bad match. Overall, I would say I would like a little bit more excitement and not just blopping at guys miles away, but that'll come with this bot. As the bot evolves, we'll be in a better position to advance like that. So the next episode, we're going to do some more match footage. May or may not have some upgrades on the bot. If we do, I'll show you all about them. If not, it'll just be hopefully me evolving my skill set with this bot. So if you want to be notified when I add that, you can subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on the social media. Social media links are always in the information section below the video. Feel free to leave your comments and feedback. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.